Welcome to Speed Force Racing. This is round 14 Singapore official practice. My name is Adam and I'm joined by Lord JB, also known as Jack. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm doing well. I was just making sure that we're alive, but yes, we are. Hello.
Brilliant. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Surviving. Missing racing. The chairs in here are remarkably comfy.
Oh yeah, we try our best. So, a race you're looking forward to or not?
Well, I am, because it can throw up some changes in the championship, because it's such a tight circuit, and it's difficult to overtake, but at the same time I'm dreading qualifying.
Do you think the type of track we have, it opens it up for the other races, or do you reckon it's going to be the same people at the front of the grid again?
It could go either way. It definitely could be the normals of Techno Thriller, Fletcher Boy coming to get you at the top, but it could also be that some new guys like Gamey Things or Racing Podge suddenly had the speed around here, because this track is ever changing, and especially during the wet, it's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah, do you reckon most drivers are not wanting a wet race? No, especially because of the closed nature of the circuit. You've got walls very close to you around most of the corners.
Yeah, it's definitely like that, and to be honest, for the last, I think, 3 or 2 rounds of Speed Force, we've had rain, so I'm not sure many people want that.
Should we jump in the Toro Rossos?
I believe we shall. Jump in a nice looking car.
I'll let you be the torpedo.
Oh well, he's high with Ferrari now, so...
Yeah, that's going to make Vettel extremely happy, I'm sure.
Do you reckon Seb walked into Maranello and saw, oh my god, he's driving for us now?
They probably walked straight out and into the nearest pub.
Do they have pubs in Italy? I don't know. They have like weird bars, don't they?
God knows, they've probably got someone playing a harp pouring champagne. A lot posher than us in England.
In England, we just have fights.
Yeah, and drinking out of a puddle. Well, that's what my local used to do.
Well, you know, things are different in Liverpool.
Oh god, I've got cramp in my foot.
Oh god, oh. That's the way to start the stream, isn't it?
Damn it!
It's almost as bad as my recording in Belgium when I was just coughing. Nah, Singapore is difficult. I've done races in league environments around it when it's wet. I don't think I've done it to the extent when it's been as wet as we had at Monza.
Yeah, it was quite bad in Monza. It didn't look like that bad on screen, but when we noticed some drivers getting wet tyres on, we saw that it was going to pop.
Yeah, it was a little bit wet for Singapore, but we I don't know, I found it, even though I binned it, I found it my most entertaining race. I've just found it brilliant to race in those conditions.
Interesting thing is, even in the dry, this is one of the longest races on the calendar because of how long the lap is. I think it's, what, you're aiming for 140s, maybe 141s for quali?
The fastest I've seen around here has been a 136, and that was in another league. But I reckon we'll be dancing with the 137s, 138s with the faster guys. But there is a big drop off with the different tyres that you wear. The Ultra Softs obviously being the quickest there. Obviously this year we're going to have the Hyper Softs, which should be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be quite an interesting tyre to see what it does in performance wise, because they were moaning about the Ultra Softs dropping off with pace after about a lap. So what's the Hyper going to do?
I think that was more in 2016 they were moaning about that. In 2017 they seem to be able to take them a lot longer than you'd expect.
What about the new rule for 3 engines per season before penalties? Now, I think it's just gonna make this, sterilise the sport. It's gonna be so slow. It's just gonna be about managing.
It's depending. We don't want the situation that Toro Rosso had with Renault, where they had where all Renault power cars had to turn down their engines for the last 2 races. We don't want that, but unfortunately, that's what we're going to get for a while, because but then again, it could push engine manufacturers to want to build reliability more like the Le Mans cars, which, well, don't go to Toyota, but they're meant to go the distance.
should be an interesting start to this season. We've got the car launches
and with
soon
Honda
as
still
well.
being in the sport, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for Toro Rosso on that front because, and I think Red Bull are keeping an eye on it because it looks like they may be going to them as well. But I suppose with them
think
going with the
Red
junior team, they will.
Yeah, Red Bull are currently in a difficult spot. They don't want Renault. They've had a lot of issues with Renault throughout 2015. But as you can see through 2016, 2017, they've got a handful of wins, and I think they don't want to admit that the Renault engine's still quite good for them.
But is it
So
more of
right now,
the?
unbranded.
Wouldn't it be more the fact that the Red Bull just built a decent chassis that's just complementing
It could
the
be
engine?
that, but then again, McLaren built a decent chassis, and their engine still sucked.
Yeah, but then McLaren were quite competitive around a few of the tracks this season.
Yeah, they were. I do agree, but it's going to be I think it's going to be interesting with McLaren and Renault, because if Renault can serve McLaren well, I think Red Bull might go back to them for a season if Honda still don't deliver with Toro Rosso.
Alright, so we're on board with Fletcher Boy at the moment in the Williams. He's on these soft tyres. Is this just about trying to get the drivers, trying to get an eye in on how long their tyres will probably last per stint, or is it just maybe trying to get some experience around the track?
I think it's a bit of both. The thing with Singapore is that we do practice 3 in the day to night, so it's going to be light to dark. By the time at the end of our 30-minute session, it should be almost race conditions. So this session really doesn't mean anything to the drivers. It's just getting an eye in on the track. The temperatures will obviously change on Wednesday when we're doing qualifying and the race in night. So the tyres could be less worn than what they get in this session.
Yeah, that's it. The track conditions will change dramatically when the night comes in, but still quite humid usually around Singapore, so the track temperatures probably still remain high. Is it a track with high deg or low?
It's pretty high if you don't have the right setup. If you going around where Fletcher Boy currently is, you can easily spin up your rear tyres and slide them around. You just got to be careful and know where the limits are with your car. I think Schumacher around here probably would have crashed a few times before he realised that, oh, hang on, I can't go that quickly around that corner.
So, thinking about next season, we're currently coming to the end of this one. We've got what? I think 6 more races after this. And then we move on to season 2. So we're going to do the non-assists, so no assists at all, and then we're going to do the assists division going from next season. Got plenty of spots open for the non-assists. So if you think you're up to the challenge, you've got the skills, drop us a message, www.facebook.com/SpeedForce Racing PS4. Give us a message. This season finishes March 7th. Our new season will begin on the 4th of April for the assist division, and for non-assist will be the 5th of April. Jack, which one are you taking part of?
I am staying in the assists because I like my automatic gearbox too much. Now I run almost all assists except for braking assists, mainly because I struggle with the recalibrating of my brain for all of this, for learning about like the things. To be honest, I even put it into medium track and I still feel the difference, and people say that there is no difference, but I still feel it.
See, for me, I don't feel the difference between having it on medium traction control to full. But in other games it was more noticeable, especially like last year's game. But this year it's quite different, because you notice with every game it handles differently. All the cars, like especially. So it's sometimes it's quite hard to get back into the swing of like driving the same game everyone's played, but on a different when it's the new one's released. Do you find that it's difficult or not?
Obviously, we're in the assists where it's basically just like a go-kart. It's much simpler. You don't feel the change as much, but you definitely notice it with this game with the shark fins. I still feel that if you go opposite lock for too long, the back end will still spin no matter what traction control you're on. You're still going to spin, which in a way is good. It adds in like almost a realism, but also you're thinking, oh, I had more grip than this on the last game. But the cars are drastically different, and they will be again in the 2018 game. So we just got to see how how it goes.
We're on board with Blood and Sand. Having a bit of difficulty passing one of the Red Bulls. I think one of the Red Bulls had a little bit of contact with the wall, bit of debris coming on the track.
I can tell you exactly what happened with him. I was on board with him. He took too much curve coming out from underneath the grandstand. Hit one wall, hit the other, broke his front right end plate. But to him, he really should have made more of an effort to get out of the way, since he was sat on the apex.
Do you find with this track that sometimes some of the curbs can knock you into the wall if you just take a bit too much curb?
Yeah, I think with all tracks there's much like that. Like Lesmo 2 in at Monza, we had a few drivers have issues through there. I believe I haven't really watched back the stream as much, but I've seen many people get on the curb too much, go a little bit too far at Lesmo 2 and just spear into the wall. But in this track, it's a lot deadlier, seeing there's walls everywhere. Can't really get away from them.
What do you reckon is the most difficult corner on the track? My opinion would be just the corner before the tunnel. I just think it's a very hard corner.
Really, I find basically most of Sector 2 difficult. The old Singapore Sling, when they remodeled it, I think that's very difficult because you want to go faster through there, but you know that you can't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Yeah, coming over the bridge where Marcus Ericsson crashed in real F1, he had that corner there. That's quite tough because it's quite enclosed, and I've had issues. I think last year I had an issue with a driver trying to go down my inside through there, and I just span around and smashed my wing, which was not helpful in those conditions.
So, are we going for a one-stop race? I know maybe you don't want to give too many details out because you're racing Wednesday, but is it a track that you can do the one-stop, or is it just the degs that high? You're going to have to think about maybe 2-3 stops.
I think it could be interesting depending on which one you go for. I do apologise if you can hear my cat. She's wanting to go out, but I can't be bothered to get up. It's depending on what you go for. It's depending on how well your tyres are taking and your setup. I essentially, and this is going to be a hint to any future teammates I have, I go till my tyres hit 70 normally. So to whatever lap it hits 70, I think, because past 70, it's puncture territory. So you just gotta. I think for me, I'm just gonna go hard as I can, fast as I can, and just see what the team suggests.
Do you reckon it's a track like Monaco where you're going to see a lot of cars maybe DNFing just because of the close nature of the walls, or do you think it's just a little bit more forgiving than Monaco is?
I think it is that midpoint between Baku and Monaco, this track. It's wide in places, but it's tight. As I said, Sector 2, that's very tight. That is almost single file lines, but then it opens up, much like Baku does, through Sector 3. I think it's going to be interesting to see if drivers mess it up. And to be honest, if you get tagged in this, if you get tagged, you're going to spin. And if you spin in a tight place, you're going to block up the road. Thank God for ghosting. But at the same time, ghosting isn't as realistic as we want it to.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that? I hate it when it ghosts. I just think it just spoils the game.
I mean, it does and it doesn't. The incident, I'm going to bring this up, the incident that happened in Italy with my sister Force India Jade, which you assumed was me, when the Ferrari hit her in Parabolica. That happened, and for me, when I was driving, they didn't ghost, and nor did I. So something came out, let's say that. I managed to avoid them, but it ghosted, and I thought that's fine. Because gamey things, the Ferrari was still moving across the track, so I'm happy that I ghosted then. But at the same time, ghosting is a pain. But also, if you're stopped for too long waiting for a car to despawn, it takes longer than 10 seconds, you're gonna get disqualified for stopping on track. So I think ghosting does help in that situation.
So, looking at the times at the moment, so we've got Racing Podge a 141.3. Now, were you expecting faster times than that? That is on the ultra soft tyre.
I think we will be seeing faster times, but again, the track has got to rubber in, as it's not been used ever at this point. I think we just got to wait and see how it goes. I think we're going to see some much faster times when Techno Thriller comes out on the super soft sort of, or the ultra softs, or when excuse me, when CBO Land gets onto the ultra softs.
So with this game, am I right to think with this game that with every lap that each car does, it does rubber up the track and improve the track, or is that not quite possible with what Cody's have done?
I think they were a bit ambitious saying that it does. I mean, even if you look on the track, you can see tyre marks, and that's just make it more feel like a racing track. So it's like, ooh, Techno Thriller's just been spanned by a Renault. There's a championship leader there not having a good time. But I think it's a time-based thing, so as the time goes on, the track will gradually get faster as it does in real life, but there's no actual rubber in it, if you know what I mean.
I've got you, yeah, I've got you.
I mean, they put in the marbles, which was nice. Obviously a pain if you run wide, but it's what you got to deal with on a real racetrack.
Well, that's it, exactly. So, we've got Techno Thriller, who's got quite a little bit of a lead now at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Do you reckon, realistically, any one of our drivers could challenge him?
I think, well, this is Formula 1, and if something's going to happen, it normally does. I think Techno, well, I think he may have, if there's another race like Belgium, he may struggle. And we have Brazil coming up. I think Brazil might be the turning point. If he wins it in Brazil, then if he wins in Brazil, I think he'll have a championship. If he doesn't win in Brazil, then it's going to be interesting. But we have, as you said, we have 6 races to go. We have Japan in that. We've got tracks that are known to rain, and when it rains hard. So I think Techno Thriller is gonna. I think he's not gonna relax till it's done.
Yeah, I've got you. Always be on guard for the unexpected.
I think, yeah, he's got to be, because I mean, as you saw, it all went wrong in Belgium for him. Well, for me, it all went right, but for him, it all went wrong, and many of the championship contenders not finishing that race sort of thrust coming to get you into the limelight. But then again, the race afterwards coming to get you having a bad race, so it proves that anyone can have a bad race, especially in Formula 1.
Well, that's it. Decadent joined.
Just lost it for you. Oh my god! Sorry, Techno Thriller was just on the fence for me.
Looks like he's not got a damaged car. Might just be having a bad session.
No, I'm just going to save the video clip.
We're on
Must have been a lag-related thing.
On board with CBO Land on the ultra soft tyres now. He's currently 6th position now. I think that's a driver probably expects to maybe be a little bit higher at the moment, because I know he likes to challenge for the top spots. Is he a threat to yourself in the race?
He's definitely a threat to myself. If I had, and I'll often say this, if I hadn't have had my little accident in Italy, I think we could have had a good battle, because I was quick in those conditions, and I think he knew it, and I think he could have got close to me, but he wouldn't have passed me in Italy. But that's ifs and buts. But he will be a threat if it's dry, and I've heard that he's confident around this track. I mean, he can be, but at the same time, it can all go wrong. It can all go wrong at sector 1 for you in the race.
Well, that's it. Hopefully, we'll speak to Fletcher Boy, Josh. He's probably going to give us a little insight into what it's like on track at the moment, and how he's finding it.
Past Techno Thriller. Techno Thriller didn't make much of a move. I think that's something that you got to remember. Even if you are a championship leader, you've still got to get out of the way of faster cars if you're not going quicker.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it's always good to have good race etiquette as well, no matter if it's practice session or the race itself. Got Lee now. He's still hanging in there in the Drivers' Championship. He's probably want to have a solid week this week, which will do him wonders. Hopefully he can just pull it together. I think with yourself, for the last 2 races, you've qualified quite high, and higher than probably I expected. Not trying to be mean, it's just with the drivers that we have on the grid at them tracks, I assume that you'd probably be maybe 8th to probably 10th in quali, but for the last couple of weeks you've snuck up there. What was it, 3rd and 4th?
Well, for qualifying in Belgium I was 3rd, but for qualifying in Italy I was 9th. That was mainly because I cut Ascari and it said that in the last 2 minutes it said this and the next lap have been invalidated. So I knew I didn't have a chance to do 2 laps. So I just went into the pits and hoped to God that I wasn't pushed out the top 10.
This track, is it all about qualifying like Monaco, or can you, like with yourself, you've got a strong race pace? Is it possible to maybe start midfield and try and get a decent result if you've got a good race pace?
It's all, and I'm going to say this a lot, it's all about turns 1 and 2 here. If you don't get span out, you don't get damage, you may be in a better position than when you qualified. You can overtake here, but it's difficult. It's just difficult following the car. Much like at Monaco, it is difficult to follow the car without suffering so much dirty air that you have to drop back.
Who do you think is the strongest pairing? You know, out of the current grid, that it doesn't have to be the championship leaders and the constructors leaders. It could be any team. Who's got the perfect balance as teammates?
Obviously, I'm pretty new to the league. I will say that first off, so I don't offend anyone. But right now, for me, I think the pairing that have really taken it away have been the Haas pairing of coming
Lee
to get
Nell's
you.
had a sorry to interrupt. Lee Nell had a little instant there, sliding out at the exit of the corner, touching the rear wheels against the wall. No damage. Continues on. Sorry, Jack. Back to you.
Yeah, he just planted the power too early. Much like me in Parabolica. But yeah, that's something you got to learn, and Lee's now learned that you got to put the power on a little bit later at that corner. But no, currently right now the strongest pairing for me are the Haas two. I don't know who Techno Thriller's old teammate was, but it's clear to see that Coming to Get You and Techno Thriller can both score podiums, can both score wins, and they've both scored big for that team.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Ramovaj that was teammates with Techno Thriller. A strong pairing.
Oh, okay.
So that's I think why they got a decent amount of points with Ramovaj winning the first 5 races.
Yeah, ye old god of all. The god of speed.
God of speed. It's crazy fast.
So Godspeed.
Fletcher Boy still on the soft tyres. Maybe spending so much time on it because that could be his preferred race tyre. What tyres do you reckon are going to be the preferred race tyres out of what we've got?
I think depending on how you start, if you start on the softs, it's going to be you're going to be on them for a long time. I think the softs strategy would be softs to ultras, and then or possibly soft to super softs. If you start on the super softs, it's obviously going to be you're going to want to try and extend that, so you're going to want to go super soft to ultras. But I think the preferred race tyre from if there's accidents at turn 1 will be the soft tyres, and I think that's Fletcher's sort of getting to know these tyres in case of an incident into turn 1 that causes him to lose his wing and have to pit at on lap 1.
Yeah, he's had a Red Bull in front of him on his timed lap at the moment. A Red Bull causing him a lot of problems. Will be unsettling the car with the downforce dirty air coming off the Williams. I wonder if that's frustrated him at all.
I assume it would have frustrated him, but at the same time he did get a tow from it. So, what are you going to do? If the Red Bull can't pull away from him and he can't pass him, then you're just going to have to suck it up and sit behind him.
That is true, that is very true. Snipesake in the Red Bull, currently 11th. He's on his on the Ultrasofts at the moment, Sector 1 time at 29.001. Fastest Sector 1 time going to Racing Podge, who's done really well at the moment, still top of the leaderboard. His Sector 1 time was 27.9, but Fletcher Boy, Gaming Thing, sorry, 27.8. A few shocks there that you got Racing Podge, Gaming Thing's Chopper, not surprising, but did SX up there high at the moment. Do you expect that to change in the last maybe 5 minutes of the session?
I think given the last 5 minutes, I think some drivers will come out onto their to do qualifying practice. Racing Pod has just hit the wall coming under the stands. He's managed to avoid it as best he can, but he has lost his end plate. But right now it's it's difficult because drivers will be doing long runs right now. I certainly would be doing a race run to try and work out what the best strategy would be. But for the last 5 minutes, I think they do a little bit of qualifying practice. But obviously, drivers will have done more practice outside of the events to on lower fuel to try and learn more about the car and how the car will position itself.
All right, so we're coming to two-thirds away through the session. We will go through the current standings at the moment. Racing Pod is first. Gamey Things second, third Chopper, fourth Did SX, fifth Blood and Sand, sixth is Fletcher Boy, seventh CBO Land, eighth Smelly Badger, ninth Techno Thriller, and 10th Lee Nell. Suppose once they get sorted, maybe on the Ultra Softs, we'll see a few changes there, especially with Techno Thriller, Fletcher Boy. They should be higher up the field.
Well, Lee Nell, he's currently out on the Ultra Softs, so I think he might be doing some qualifying runs for the last 10 minutes.
You say quality runs, is that doing maybe one time lap, jumping back in the pits, getting a fresh set of tyres, or is that maybe doing 2 time laps?
I think it'd be 2 time laps around here, because if you can get the right point, you can do 2 laps with these tyres. I think that's the point in qualifying when you don't want to do any more. Because I think these tyres, for me personally, I've hit 9% on 2 runs, then get it back into the pits, you're pushing 11, and then these tyres degrade so quickly that you're thinking, oh, okay, so strategy's got to change because of that. I think the advantage will go to the people that are outside of the top 10 who are starting on fresh tyres, because they'll be able to either go for a fast setup, go for a fast strategy and go aggressive, or they can go very conservative and see how it goes being conservative.
So Chopper's done a 28.2 sector 1 time, 38.8 sector 2 time. It's probably going to be around maybe the 4th, 5th position. He's currently 3rd at the moment, so he's not going to improve on this time, I don't think. Oh, and there you go. I know, 0. He improves. 2nd. I will keep my mouth shut because I obviously know nothing. So Racing Podge is first. Chopper with a great lap. He's purple sector 2.
He's invalidated it. Chopper. So he's invalidated his second lap.
Yep, he has. It stopped the timer at 6 seconds. So CBO Land, he's 7th at the moment on the Ultra Softs as well. Most drivers will be coming out on the Ultra Softs. Only 6 minutes left of the session. He's a little bit of weaving there, trying to get heat into the tyres to start his fast time lap. We will go and look at Smelly Badger in the Sauber 8th position. Is there any drivers out there that you think are a perfect match for yourself?
Ooh, see, I'd say CBO Land, because we should have had such a race in Belgium. If I hadn't have broken my wing on the way out of the pits, I think right now, my pace lies with Smelly Badger. Just after I think Smelly Badger is namely I think 7th down at the current standings of the session would be where I'd be if I was racing.
So, any races that you're not looking forward to coming up?
Mexico.
You just don't like it?
I don't. The issue with it is trying to set it up. The S's, I always get thrown out of the S's coming through it. It's just so difficult to get it right. I get thrown out and I'll end up on the grass. But then again, I've done some amazing moves at Mexico, so you might get a show, I'm not sure. I don't like turn 1 at Japan. I hate it because the racing line says to brake and you know you shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. You have to keep accelerating and it's hard. It's just
scary.
Hard. yeah, that's so true.
I think Abu Dhabi is going to be one that I don't really want to do because it's Abu Dhabi. It's not a great track. If it rained, that might be interesting. And knowing Speed Force's luck, yes.
Yeah, it'd be like molten hot rain.
I think the thing is though, most of the corners are 90 degrees corners around Abu Dhabi. So you're going to be going around there and it's raining, you're going to turn 90 degrees, you could go straight on.
So CBO Land setting a lap time of 141.0, so he's I think shown his hand now. Is it worth showing your potential quali pace to the rest of the field, or is it best keeping it till Wednesday?
I think you can afford to show it off today on Monday, because a lot can change in 2 days. You can do more practice and get quicker, or we could have a wet qualifying session, which would essentially be everyone in this session's time would be pointless, because we'd be pushing like 2 minutes in the wet session.
Oh yeah, easily. Have you noticed that in Singapore in like real life it rained for the first time this season just gone? But I've noticed when we do other leagues as well, for like growing up with this game, Singapore has always been wet for me. How about you?
Not always. I know I've only been doing league racing since June last year, but I know that my first race around Singapore, it didn't rain. I just sucked. My second race more recently in another league, also just Fletcher Boy, just to bring it up, has just been blocked on his fast lap by a Red Bull, causing him pretty hard. And yeah, Fletcher Boy is actually blocking him too. It's for Snipe's sake. So that could be a talk with the stewards with these two. Just
definitely.
They pulled out of the pits and deliberately sat on the line ahead of Fletcher Boy. Fletcher Boy showing how annoyed he was by weaving ahead of him. They're racing drivers, aren't they? They're gonna be a bit ungrateful sometimes.
That is true. On this game, the one thing I hate is when it's fully wet. The conditions are just crazy. To me, it's just impossible to drive sometimes. Do you find that or not?
Love it.
You love it?
I love it. I absolutely adore it. Like, well, I'm going to result again back to Monza. That was the wettest I've ever been in a Formula 1 game. That's how wet it was. It was horrid. It was torrential. I think that if it had been in real life, the FIA would have red flagged that event. But it was just so much fun. I had so much fun just having to constantly think about my throttle applications. I got it wrong, obviously, as you saw on stream. But it was just so much fun to drive. I don't even care that I finished 7th. It was just so much fun. I didn't want it to end.
So we've got 1 minute 42 seconds left of the session. Once this stream ends, Jack will be jumping in the car. I'll probably be jumping into a wall as Jack sets some competitive lap times. I guarantee that.
Oh, you say that. There's some of these guys in here which I'm scared of, like Techno.
Yeah, Techno, let's see. He's currently 6th position at the moment. Set his lap time on the soft tyres, so unless he's out on track.
Very close to his chest, isn't he?
We'll go find him on the camera. So yeah, he's on these outlap on the ultra soft tyres, so he's going to probably give it one shot late into the session to see if he can get himself up to the table. So are you putting money on that Techno will get first?
Techno's not out for me. He's in the garage.
I'm watching Haas driving around on ultra softs.
I'm having some issues then.
That's a weird one.
It'll be interesting to see if Techno does manage to get first. Techno could be the first. I'm saying could. He could be the first Speed Force champion. I'm not gonna put any stamp on it until I see the flag fall on the final event.
Now, would that be more tempting to win the championship, the first ever championship in a new league? Is it that more desirable?
I think if I were him, I'd want to win it in a race. So if I was winning in Abu Dhabi and I knew I was going to win the championship in Abu Dhabi, I'd slow down a bit. Like if he finished on the podium and he won the Grand Prix and he was going to win the championship, I'd slow down and I'd give them a good show.
I've got you, yeah. We have lost camera now because at the end of the session. So, shall we wrap up? Because I don't think we're going to get much from Josh, because I don't think he's going to be joining us.
Techno Thriller is out on that lap. Now, he's just left the pits for me.
You've got a time delay on a live stream in a game. There you go. That's something new for everyone.
Jeez, I don't know what's going on. My internet died before this. Well, I wasn't exactly happy. I was running around going, it's not working.
Right, so we will wrap the stream up, I think. Wednesday at around 8:25 p.m. GMT will be the live stream of round 14 Speed Force Racing Singapore Grand Prix. Should be a packed grid, hopefully. Should be at least 18 racing. Should be a good event as well, as I'm sure Jack's looking forward to it, as are the rest of the drivers.
I'm dreading it.
There you go, words of confidence there from Jack. That's what Speed Force Racing does to you. It makes you super confident and sound like that. Anything you would like to say, Jack, before we sign off?
No, I think hopefully the ladies and gentlemen who are watching this event will hear from me a lot more, as I'm aiming to do commentary a lot more in this league, as I like talking. I talk too much, and that's why I make too many videos on YouTube.
Oh, not all, mate. I think we will see Jack more and more.
Well,
Techno 139.0. So as we end the live stream and the session, Techno there wrapping up a decent lap time, and it should be quite competitive going into Wednesday's quali and race, which should be interesting. So remember, 8:25 p.m. Will be the live stream. Go to www.facebook.com/Speed Force Racing PS4. Sign up. We've got a non-assist division starting next season for us, which will be on April the 5th for the non-assists. Plenty of spaces. Drop us a message and we'll get you racing. I've been Nightwalker, also known as Adam, joined by Lord JB13, which is Jack. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
That's